Well, greetings and welcome to episode 145 of Bible 180, 180 episodes between Genesis and Revelation. We're on John chapter 21, the last chapter in John's Gospel. At the end of 21, he gives his purpose statement. These things are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Son of God and that believing in him you might have life in his name. Chapter 21 contains a post-resurrection appearance of Jesus to his disciples while they're on the beach. At the beginning of chapter 21, the disciples hadn't quite figured everything out. They knew that the women had said that Jesus was raised, but they were floundering. Jesus had been crucified, and even though they had seen him in the upper room where Jesus showed them his hands and his feet, the signs of the crucifixion, they weren't sure what it all meant. They were befuddled and a little bit disoriented. So Peter says to the disciples, this is after Jesus had appeared to them. Touch my hand and my side. See that it's me. Peter says to the other disciples, I'm going to go fishing. Now, Jesus has been raised from the dead to conquer sin, death, and the power of the devil. And Peter says, I'm going to go fishing. While Jesus was with them, he told Peter, James, and John that if they followed him, he would make them fish for people and not for fish. But now, John chapter 21, Peter is befuddled, bewildered, and just a tad disoriented. I'm sure he thought in his mind, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I'm going to go fishing. What a common response, because when you're experiencing a life crisis, a meaning and purpose, you go back to what's familiar and safe. Peter wanted to go back to fishing, which is what he did in his pre-Jesus days. It's what he left when Jesus called him on the Sea of Tiberias. And the funny thing is, when Peter said, I'm going to go fishing, 6 other disciples said, don't leave without us. We'll go with you. They were in the same boat in more ways than one. They were lost boys, and they made a huge discovery on a beach, but they didn't know it at the time. So when they got in the boat, they went back to what their lives were like before they knew Jesus, back into the thing that they knew best, fishing. And they fished all night because they fish at night. And they caught nothing. And here they are, experienced fishermen, going back to what their lives were like before Jesus came into their lives. And they caught nothing, nada. I mean, we might look at that and think, well, no surprise, but they had expected that they would find success and fulfillment by going back to the way life it was before, but it wasn't going to be that way. They went back to what was secure, back to what was familiar, and they thought, we need some meaning and purpose to life, and it isn't happening by going back to what we did. Because if you keep going back to the same old thing again and again and expect something different from your old results that you've always gotten, you're in a rut. You're in a rut. Ruts are very frustrating places, but the only good thing about a rut is that once you're in a rut, you just keep going, you know? You can't go one way, you can't go the other way, you have to go the way the rut goes. You don't have to think about where you're going because the rut's already been established for you. You do the same old thing, you get the same old results, you lack purpose, you live without joy. That's where the disciples were. But early the next morning, Jesus stood on the beach, and the disciples saw this guy standing there, but they didn't know it was Jesus. Jesus says to them, hey, dudes, have you caught any fish? And they said, nope. And he said, why don't you cast your nets on the other side? Now, they could have thought, well, we're fishermen. We know how to fish. We've done this all our lives, and we're going to keep doing the same thing we've always done, but we are expecting different results, which never happens. Well, I mean, is the secret to success trying harder? I mean, isn't that the American way to try harder, to put your nose to the grindstone, keep working harder and harder until success comes? But the problem is, what if you're trying to work hard at the wrong thing? What if you're doing all of your energy and time and efforts on the wrong thing. What if you've tried to climb the ladder of success but realized when you get there that you've laid your ladder on the wrong wall? Well, that's where the disciples were. They fished all night. They tried. They could have given up. But Jesus gave them a third option, and that is to trust Jesus. Jesus says, put your nets on the other side of the boat. So they had to haul them all up. I mean, this is no small feat. They had to haul them all up and then put them on the other side of the net. And when they did, they trusted Jesus, and the difference was between success and failure. The only thing that mattered then was that they trusted Jesus. The story goes on to say that the disciples didn't have to go anywhere. They knew where the fish were. They didn't need a better note. They didn't need to cast their nets in a different place. They simply needed to listen to Jesus and to trust him, and it made all the difference in the world. And when the disciples did that and trusted Jesus, their nets were filled to overflowing with 153 fish. Okay. With 153 fish. So, like I said in the last episode, numbers are not inconsequential in the Gospel of John. Why mention 153 fish? Some commentators don't even make reference to it. They just kind of go on. Some commentators mention that Jerome, one of the early church fathers, wrote that Greek zoologists at the time of Jesus had identified 353 different species of fish, symbolizing the totality and the range of the disciples' catch, that they had caught one of every species. Other commentators mention Augustine, who wrote that there's a mathematical interpretation of the number 153, because if you take all the numbers from 1 to 17, add them all up, 1 plus 2 plus 3, you get 153. And the number 17 represents the numerical number of perfection, a combination of 10 and 7, which were symbolically perfect and full. 1 plus 2 plus 3, 153. 153 fish that they caught when they trusted Jesus. They listened to him and they trusted him. That's what the disciples found when they followed Jesus. Put your nets on the other side of the boat, follow me, listen to me, and I will give you wholeness. And that's what they learned on the beach. So they go on to shore. The disciples go on to shore. Jesus has breakfast cooking for them. Again, John mentions, on a charcoal fire. On a charcoal fire. When on a charcoal fire? Now, there's only two places in the New Testament where a charcoal fire is mentioned. One is when Jesus was on trial. Peter was kind of in the courtyard, and he was warming himself around a charcoal fire. Then he denied Jesus 3 times. Now they go on shore, and Jesus is cooking breakfast for them on a charcoal fire. The only times that the charcoal fire is mentioned. So maybe Jesus wanted to get Peter around a place, around that charcoal fire, to undo what he did around that charcoal fire when he denied Jesus 3 times. So they're having breakfast. And Jesus says to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? And he says, yes, Lord, you know I love you. Jesus said again, do you love me? He said, yes, I love you. He said a third time, and Peter felt frustrated because he asked him a third time. He said, yes, I love you. Now, what's interesting is this God of second chances, charcoal fire, was tapping into the heart of Peter. You see, in English, we have one word for love. Love. You can love your sister, your mother, your father. They'll know where Christians buy our love. I love Taco Tuesday. I love Oreos. I love my wife, I love Jesus. They all have different meanings. At the time of Jesus, there's a number of different words for love, but two of them specifically are, one of them is agape, with an all-out, all-giving, unconditional, full-bore love. Full-bore love, agape. That's the love with which God loves us. There's also another Greek word, which is phileo, which means like the way you love your sister or a brother or a good friend, phileo. Philadelphia is a city of brotherly love, from phileo and Adolphus, which means brother, city of brotherly love. So when you phileo someone, you really enjoy being together, but when you agape love someone, it's a love based on sacrificial love for the other. You love your God agape with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. You love your neighbor as yourself. That's deep sacrificial love where you're willing to give your all. That's a love that Jesus has for us. But phileo is a different kind of love. It's important. I love my sister. I love camping, but that's not agape. So all of that goes into when Jesus asked Peter, Peter, do you agape me? Do you love me with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength? Peter says, yes, Lord, you know I phileo you. Yeah, we're buds. Yeah, we've been hanging out for 3. Yep, it's been good. It's been good. Second time, Jesus asked him the same thing. He says, Peter, do you agape me? I mean, do you love me? Heart, soul, are you an on fire, always believer, never leaving my side? Or do you agape me? And the second time, Peter also says, yeah, Lord, you know I phileo you. Third time, Jesus says, Peter, do you phileo me? Do you phileo me? I mean, are we buds? And Peter says, yeah, I know. That's what I've said 3 times. Twice Jesus says, do you agape me? And he realized that Peter was not willing to give him that agape, self-giving, sacrificial kind of love. So he thought, okay, I'll ask, do you phileo me? Peter said, yeah, of course I phileo you. Phileo love at that point was the only thing Peter could offer. And Jesus asked him to follow him, to join him on a transformative life journey, to love others, to spread the love of Jesus with that agape love wherever Peter went. Jesus realized that Peter was not able to offer an agape level, but he loved him and accepted him on a phileo level, knowing that one day Peter would give his life for Jesus, but at that point, Peter wasn't there. So part of the point at John 21 is God loves you just where you are, just like Jesus loved Peter, just where you are, without restraint and everything. And God accepts you where you are with him, but loves you too much to let you stay there. Wants you to grow, wants you to learn, wants you to engage your head, heart, hands, destiny in following Jesus with everything you've got. And agape love is what God is after. But if you're not able to give an agape love, your heart, soul, mind, and strength, if you can't say yes to Jesus, I phileo, yes, I'm on my journey, that's totally okay. It was okay with Peter, and it's okay with you. God loves you unconditionally just where you are, at whatever that level of discipleship you're at. However you answer the question, do you love Jesus? The answer is okay. But the important thing to remember is that God loves us just the way we are, but loves us too much to let us stay that way. Maybe it's important to remember that we need discipleship. We need to learn. We need to feel. We need to serve. We need to grow. We need to become fully devoted followers of Jesus. And we have to start somewhere. Wherever you are, that's great. just don't stay that way. Just don't stay that way. Learn, grow, serve, love, and you'll be able one day to answer, yes, Jesus, I agape you. That's the answer he's waiting for, and he's willing to be patient until you grow into that agape love more and more. Have a great day. Have just a great day. Be grateful for so many things. It changes your perspective when you're grateful to look at the ways God is present and active in your life, leading you into a deeper level of following him. We're ending the Gospel of John with this episode, starting the Acts of the Apostle in the next episode, and I look forward to being with you in that. And until then, you take good care. Bye-bye.